All right, so it shows where Belle Plaine is. For those of you that have been around me know that I come from the Tama area, which if you can see the little cursor, that's Tama County. Belle Plaine is just a little to the east of it, about, I don't know, 12, 15 miles. The Milwaukee Railroad came through here, and Northwestern came through here. Milwaukee, of course, is totally gone. Northwestern is Union Pacific. The Northwestern out of Belle Plaine had a line that I'm tracing up here that went up to Mason City. And they had, that line hauled a lot of stock, cattle, hogs, and so forth. It also had a line that went south and down into the coal fields, ending up down in here, and it picked up a lot of coal mines down here. But this is totally gone. It went first, and then the Mason City line went next. So there was a lot of railroad activity going on in Belle Plaine. Okay, I think I skipped one here. There is the original Belle Plaine, well, not the original, but there's the last depot that they had. And the city of Belle Plaine was interested in renovating that and making it into a historical society. But when the architect got in there and he checked everything over, he said, you know, by the time you cleaned that building up and made it handicap accessible, you will build a very fine building. And that's exactly what they did. Okay.
So did the building stay up or stay down?
Oh, you just press this other thing and it works fine. Okay, here's where the camera was. It was at this end. There's a caboose if you ever looked at the camera. So you saw the caboose in the top of the picture. So that's the end of that, just to give you a little idea where things are at now.
Ron, did that building stay up or stay down?
It's still there.
Oh, nice.
This
Okay.
picture was taken, I took it off Google a couple of days ago, although I don't know when it was last. There's the guy who owns it. It's owned privately, and he thinks he can get this thing rebuilt. That's a huge building.
It is.
I don't know what he plans on making it handicapped accessible or just turn it into something like a, I don't know, restaurant or something like that. The ice house, which was a small ice house in Belle Plaine, we'll see a picture of it. It is or was a restaurant. All right, now if I can get the other one up. Okay. So when they built the new building, they wanted to, well, I knew some people out there and they asked me if I had anything that I could show. And so I put together some old pictures. Lloyd Kaiser was very helpful with this. And I took it out there, and the first thing I told him, I said, you know, I'm not a railroader. And the room was full of railroaders. I said, you guys can tell me what this is all about. And they loved it. I mean, the place was, we went on and on for hours and hours that day. Unfortunately, nobody took a record of it. So let's see if we can make this thing work. Okay, went too fast. All right. So here's the next one. This is Norway. This is a town east of Belle Plaine.
I'm not seeing I'm not seeing pictures of anything. I just see pictures of Ron.
Yeah, Ron, you're not sharing anymore.
Oh, I forgot to share. Huh? It looks pretty good at this end, guys. Hold on.
First aid kit is in the hall closet. And you won't be seeing this, but under the kitchen sink is fire extinguisher. Oh, that looks fine. For fires only. And don't be someone just.
Now do you see it?
Yep, that's great.
All right. Anyway, let's just look at it for a minute.
I know you will, thank you. Oh, set for your first day. I believe I am.
So here's a picture of Norway. Typical Northwestern depot. I'm not sure whether that's an outhouse there or not. To the left.
Okay, yeah.
So here's Luzerne. Which is, you can't, you can almost see it. Blairstown. Another picture, a later picture of Blairstown. The camera that was looking east out of the new museum would be looking toward the tile factory in Belle Plaine. And I guess that's often called the Brickyard Hill, but you know, they labeled this as a tile factory, but I think it probably made bricks too. It was a pretty big deal. A lot of towns in that area made bricks.
A lot of clay in the area.
Yes, there is. It's a yellow clay. And I guess, I don't know if you can change, I don't know enough about bricks. Perhaps you change color if you heat it more. I don't know.
Oh,
Anyway, this was
definitely.
the big fire in Belle Plaine that about burned the town down. You're looking west. You can see the railroad's water tower here. And this is one of the original depots. And that's kind of an unusual water plug, isn't it? I assume that they are getting their water from the city here. Belle Plaine had at one time the one of the largest free-flowing wells. They could not, artesian well, they could not close it down. And they took many, many days before they finally was able to close it down. I mean, it just went out a tremendous amount of water. Early passenger train. Kind of interesting. It'd be interesting to know what that says there. Big sign on the side of that baggage.
I think it says Sioux City to Washington.
Well, yeah, it does kind of look like that, doesn't it? I have no idea what that is. It may be a special train that is traveling from Sioux City to Washington. After World War I, there was a lot of the old soldiers went to Washington to protest the fact that they weren't getting much of a pension.
Ron, there's a tremendous amount of graphics on the next two cars after that one with the Sioux City to Washington.
Yeah, I
It's
see that.
all decorated on the sides and the top.
Yeah. That second one looks like it says Sioux City on it, on the
Yes.
body underneath the windows.
I really wonder if it isn't a train of old World War I veterans.
Or a circus train,
I don't think so.
no, with all that decoration.
No, circus train usually would have the cars behind whatever the flat cars and things with their wagons. Usually the passenger cars trailed at the end. But I don't know. Anyway. So here they have built a new station. The building over here, the white building, that is gone. That is, I don't know what it was. It could have been a hotel. I suspicion it was. I'm not exactly sure what this is, but it may be some kind of a signal. Looks like a bell. Of course, here's the train order signal here. And they had a little, on the other side of the track, they had a little shelter. Big passenger train going through with a pretty big engine on it. Here, now you can see the shelter over here, water plug. As far as I know, that's the freight house. It's a big freight house that went along with the depot. This tower took care of the crossing gates. That tower, that's the east tower, and it controlled the crossing gates and also controlled a crossover. And that particular tower was made, the Northwestern Society commissioned that to be made by a man in St. Louis who used to work for American Model Builders, and can't think of his name right now. So that, and I think as far as I know, you can still buy that. That's a very nice little kit. That's what the panel looked like on the inside when they moved, when the tower was taken down, they moved it over to the depot. Looking west toward the engine facilities. Roundhouse. Where would you say that's about 180 degree, a half round? Little smoke in the air, right? If the picture's right, I guess I'd taken in 1923. Quite a few locomotives there. I'm not sure which way that train is going, but I think it's probably going east. There's the ice house I was talking about. That was or is a restaurant. The big elevator behind here is gone. That's gone. All of this is gone, but that's still there. It doesn't look like that anymore. Do you think that's piles of wood for wood burning locomotives? There's the coal chutes. Of course, you know, they back the car up, the gondola up and dump it in the pocket and fill the tender up. If you this was a wreck. You see how the drop down is all out of kilter here. My guess is that the locomotive moved when it was down. That's quite a mess. The ash pit. Another roundhouse view. So you see the handle on this? Do you think that means that's a Armstrong turntable? we've been talking about the old railroad cars that have been turned into sand houses and other things. Look, there's a couple old railroad car bodies over here. Looks like a little track repair going on, huh? The locomotive sitting across the highway there, that's, the highway comes in from the south. Used to be Highway 212. I'm not sure what, they changed some designations of that, so it's a different railroad highway now. I believe that is a Union Pacific car. It goes back, tells you that in 1906, we had motor cars.
The McKean car.
Yes. But I believe it's a Union Pacific car.
Yeah, it says that on the side.
Yeah, stopped in, of course, you know, the Union Pacific, all of their passenger trains were going through Belle Plaine at this point in history.
The Keene manufacturing plant was right next to the UP Omaha engine house.
Look at all the rods here on the left. Every one of those rods is going to be operating a signal or a switch or something. That is, I never counted them, but that one right there ends up over here. It goes across to something. Look at them going across to the other side. Not many people model any of that stuff, right? That's the one.
17 rods.
17, you count them quicker than I could.
That's something I want to do, making the supports and do it 3D printing.
Yeah, I bet that'd work pretty good.
Model railroader, or excuse me, not model railroader. Cow scale made a part that was the base that you just drilled through a little bit and put a rod through. Part MR2 and MR1. They were made for model railroader. That model railroader sold them in the 50s.
On this end of this is on the west end. And at this point, the line went north and the line went south. And of course, the main line went west. And there was a big double tower out here. The tower was like the East Tower, except it was double size, which is the same as one in Tama was a double sized tower.
Is that where the Y was?
I don't know whether the north line had a Y or not. The south line did, and that would be on the west side of Belle Plaine,
Okay, which side was the roundhouse on?
the west side of town.
Okay, thanks.
So now we're talking about the Mason City line. I think you're looking east. I'm pretty sure you are because you could see the tower there. And the off to the left is the line going up to Mason City. The line going south to the coal field is back this way back behind that. So this is the little town of Irvine, which actually at one time even had a college there. There's nothing there now. I don't even think there's a single house there. This is where the big wreck was with the Milwaukee that ended the Northwestern's Mason City line. I believe the problem was the Milwaukee ran into the Northwestern train, T-boned it. I think that's a train load of stock cars. And you can see the line that's going out here. Here's the line going north right now. I remember that when I was, out there at that time. Again, this is west of I think you're looking west here, because here's the line going north. I don't know whether this is the line going south or if this just is the additional tracks in the yard.
The previous picture had a couple of double slip switches in it.
Yeah, let me go back. We're almost done. So you can see them right here at this area right in here. They're talking about the line going south. It's real soft coal and had a lot of sulfur in it. We need a board like that for our operating session, so you sign up. I guess some people do have something like that. That's Chelsea. This is going west on the main line. Morning train. Again, we're still in Chelsea. Chelsea's an interesting little town because every year the Iowa River would get up and 3/4 of the town would be underwater. And finally, in about 1970, the federal government bought the houses, and now most of the town is just vacant lots. The people moved up on the hills, and there's not much left of this town. This town also had a big rolling mill where they rolled oats into oatmeal. Every year we'd take a load of oats down and get them rolled, take them back for hog feed. Probably ate some of it as far as I know. I remember this town because there was a drugstore there that had a talking crow. He'd say a couple of words. They had a little museum of all kinds of odd things. If I look at this right, you see these cars here? I think those are stock cars with hatches on the top for feed and water. That didn't prove out very well. They didn't last very long. These things got full of cinders, and of course that didn't work very well for feed. This is Long Point. Nothing at Long Point today. It is the only thing that it is. I think the railroad still has might have a sign there because there was a hot box recorder there. We're getting real close to where we lived. That was the elevator in Long Point. They shipped a lot of hogs out of there. We had a buyer that would buy hogs and ship. Back to Belle Plaine. This is their final coal chutes. Into the diesel era. Looks like a number of Elcos were working out that way, don't they? Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Pretty appropriate for today. Maybe nobody has snow but us. You can see they had 7 passenger trains. 1955, while they all moved over to the Milwaukee. The Milwaukee ran right beside our house. Saw many Milwaukee trains, including the Hiawatha, steam-driven Hiawatha or old Hiawatha. An aerial view. A city view. Right down here is the depot that you see today. Main Street here. This area here is where this is all gone. And that's where the new museum is at, in this area. So we'll do a little bit of Milwaukee Road railroading. It's, of course, Milwaukee was only about 12 miles north of the 15 miles north of the Northwestern. This is Vining. Those of you ever been to my house know that I model Vining, but I don't model that depot. Here's the old guy that was a station agent for 50 years. There's Elburn. Milwaukee had a lot of 2-story depots. You know, that the up there live upstairs. Okay, well, this is quite, you'll have to look at this on something else, but here's what the gist of it was. So they were had a polar bear going from New York City to Salt Lake City Zoo. And the polar bear got out of his cage. And this is all about how they captured the polar bear and put him back in. About how he smashed into the Christmas candy and so finally they got a new cage built. They lured him into it. This is not our farm. I don't know whose it is, but it's sure typical of what I saw when I was a kid. Although we never, our steam engine, which we had, was not operable anymore. I never saw it operate. So I think it's sold to somebody in South Dakota.
Ron, what is the barrel type car there for?
This
Yes.
car, That's the water wagon for the steam engine.
Okay, thank you.
On the back of the wagon there's a rod at an angle. And that drives a Myers pump to pump water into the tanks on the back of the engine. My son owns a couple of steam tractors.
I noticed that this, they got a barrel here. That's where they keep their extra water.
Yeah. Definitely need extra water when you're threshing.
I don't know whether they burn straw on this one or not. They probably burn wood and coal.
Was that,
There's no straw on the deck here, and there's no straw on the ground. So
No,
I
I
would
think-
say it's not a straw burner.
I would agree with you. I think it's a coal burner.
And there's a shovel laying on the firing deck.
Yeah, coal was so plentiful in Iowa that, and I'm sure it was probably as cheap as wood.
were there a lot of those water wagons? Was that a ubiquitous kind of thing associated with?
Most everyone who bought a steam tractor bought a water wagon with it.
That's right.
Okay, but the problem is that some water wagons were made out of galvanized steel and they rotted away, so they don't exist now.
So
And
it's,
the wood wagons that had a galvanized tank on the inside of a wood frame, a lot of guys are restoring them. They're finding them and rebuilding them, and they're beautiful when they're done.
so
Where
what
do you,
you'd-
where do you find them? At what kind of museums?
Oh, usually in the back of an old barn.
But are there any museums around the country?
Oh, there's some, yeah, if you go to Alberta in Canada, there's a great museum up there that's got 200 steam tractors and wagons. Around this country, you got to go to Wauseon, Ohio for one show, or well, the Mason City's got a tractor show too. So there's
Thank
a
you.
lot. Where do you live, Rod?
I live about 5 miles from Ron.
St.
But
Joe, Michigan,
where?
in Michigan, St. Joe, Michigan area.
Okay, have you ever heard of the Mason Show?
Yeah, I don't know if Rod's been there. I've been to Mason's show, but you also got to go to Mount Pleasant, Iowa too.
Oh my God, I can't do Mount Pleasant. It's just too big.
A
Yes.
typical way you do it, you'd have the steam engine pulling the separator, which we call the thresher, we call it the separator. And then behind that would be towed the water wagon.
Now, the Heston Steam Museum just south of Ron has a steam tractor parade every Labor Day weekend.
Right. If you live in our area over there, you ought to at least go down there once. It's a
Yeah,
pretty
I
nice
just,
place.
Neil, I just haven't seen one of those water wagons before in any of the photographs, so that's why I was asking.
Yeah, they're usually teamed up to a team of horses, and when the water went down, the guy would go take the wagon to the creek, pump water into the wagon, take it back to the engine. He was constantly moving. That's why the horses are on it. He was the gasoline truck.
Yeah, you can see the guy standing here on top of the thrash machine. You know, he's the guy that's making sure everything's working right. This guy here I think there's one bundle wagon sitting right here. And this guy is the next one in line. There's
Yeah.
a set of horses here. Here's the next bundle wagon. So there's probably 3 of them getting ready to come in. Sometimes these would be big enough that they would have a wagon on each side. This one doesn't really look that way. We had 2 old thrash machines. One was wooden, and when I was a kid, it was falling apart, but it was a big machine. It was big enough that you could have people throw in from both sides. But
Oh,
the
that's
final
cool.
one we had was a Belle City galvanized one. You know, look at
What
this.
make,
Go ahead.
what make, Ron?
The final one was a Belle City.
Belly City.
Yeah.
Ah, I never heard of that one.
Well, maybe just Belle City, but I think it was Belle.
Oh, that's
City.
Bell. That's pronounced Bell.
Okay, well, anyway, you see this, if I get my cursor back, you You see this divider here? I think you could throw in from both sides.
Yeah,
There must be
that-
another wagon here.
That apron looks pretty wide.
Yeah, because there's a bundle here and a bundle over here.
Up at Heston, we had a twin wing John Deere separator. It was the only one, supposedly the only one east of the Mississippi. And I dragged it out of its storage shed one day and I got hell for doing that. It was before a show, but I got the belts on. I cut some belts and laced them, and we had the thing actually working. It was really cool.
Yeah,
Excuse the ignorance, what is the difference between a separator and a thrashing machine?
a
None.
separator, I think, is just a local term for a thrash machine.
Okay, thank you.
And the word thrashing is actually thrashing, or actually threshing, not thrashing. Thrashing is when you lay on the ground and flip all over the place. Okay. Threshing is what you do when you throw a grain of whatever into a machine and it separates it by shaking it and by air.
And that is the end.
Very nice. Thanks, Ron.
I have one of Tama that we used up there at one of their railroad days. So someday that we were kind of looking for somebody to put one on. If somebody wants to see one of those, why, we could look at that. It'll be mostly buildings. This one had a lot of locomotives in it, and that one doesn't have many locomotives. I
Very
guess
good.
I don't have anything else.
Yeah, Ron, you mentioned when we started that the Belle Plaine camera was off. I have it on screen right now, so it's back.
Oh, it came back on again.
Yep.
Good, I can check the weather.
And then the one in Washington, Iowa, that's on the Canadian Pacific. That started 10 hours ago, it said, so it's a brand new camera.
Canadian Pacific, that's gotta be, the Canadian Pacific has took over the old Milwaukee through Iowa, which is basically follows the Mississippi south, but it has a line that goes over through Mason City. And it doesn't get all the way to Sioux City, I don't think, anymore. So there's not a lot of Canadian Pacific in Iowa. And now that they're going to join up with the Kansas City Southern, that line that goes along the Mississippi is going to be a major improvement on that line. It goes through one little town out there, right down Main Street of that town. I got a feeling that those people will want that railroad moved out of town.
That's Bellevue, Iowa. It goes right down the center of the street.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay, thanks.
They're talking on at least 4 times the traffic that's on there now once the Kansas City traffic starts coming up. Davenport's having issues. There's a lot of little towns that they don't know what to do because it's not easy to relocate that. You're right up against the bluffs.
Yeah. If you ever get out there and want to do some rail fanning, why, I would suggest following the old Milwaukee, you go by the Picker's place before you get there. I understand that they now, you can tell us I understand they charge you to come in and look around.
Oh, American Pickers.
Anything to make money, I guess.
Yeah. I found Washington, Iowa is 30 miles south of Iowa City.
Okay, well, that must be on a Canadian, on a CP line.
Yeah. That's what it says on the,
Well, then what that is the old Milwaukee line going to Kansas City out of, well, it used to go through Cedar Rapids. They moved it over to Davenport.
Yep.
Yeah, thinking about it, I guess I have been in Washington.
Regarding the tractor shows, I don't know. There used to be one on the west side of Des Moines, about 5 miles out of town. I don't know if it's still held or not.
Well, Ron is on here. He goes to a lot of tractor shows. He can tell us a little bit about his big trip a year or two ago out into the Dakotas, Ron. Or maybe he left.
He might have dropped, yeah.
I think he's dropped out.
Too bad. But they
But
had
that one used to be along the interstate, so as we're driving by, I could see a lot of the tractors being displayed and running, but we never did stop.
Well, I kind of like to go to them every year, you know, a little bit of the old farmer in me left.
Yeah. All right, well, thanks again, Ron. Thanks, everybody, for coming. We will be on again next week, same time, same station. So I'm not sure what we're doing yet. Jared has a presentation that's ready to go. So I'm sure we'll have something, but I'll let you know next week when we get a little closer to the date.
One quick thing before we all go, Alan, I was looking at there's the Indy Junction coming up. And I noticed there's quite a few of the layouts are going to be up in Kokomo. Or did he drop off?
No, Alan's on.
Kokomo's on, the Kokomo Club's gonna be part of it, yeah, but I don't know what they're doing.
I saw your picture on there when I was looking today at the Kokomo Club. So, okay, tomorrow is this next to the last day of Dwayne Henry's run.
Yeah.
And he indicates there's going to be people coming in on the second Sunday. Will be coming in from Wisconsin and Ohio and northern Michigan, and people have run there before, want to go one more time.
Very good.
So he says that he's got 1 month to clean the thing out and have that room empty. He did purchase a new house.
He did. All right.
He did. So,
Well, see you guys later.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Yep, good show, Ron. Stay warm.
Well done, Ron.
thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Ron and Steve,
Thank you.
and Greg.
Bye-bye.